Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye. Om Apyayantu Mangani Vak Pranaschakshushrotramato Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarod Anirakaranamastva Nirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirate Yaupanishatsu Dharmaste Mai Santu Te Mai Santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Soham Bhagavah Mantri Devasme Na Atmavit. Soham, that I, who is all-knowing, who has studied and known all the scriptures, all forms of arts and science, I know whatever it is that is knowable, all that I know. Soham, that I, who is omniscient, all-knowing, na Atmavit, I am not the knower of the self. Mantravit, I know all the texts, all right, but still I do not know Atma. Tarati Shogam Atmavit Shrutam hi Bhadrashebhyah. I've heard from venerable sages like you that the one who knows the self crosses the grief. Aham sochami. But I am grieving, means I do not know the self. Or one cannot say one does not know the self. Self has to be known because it is self-revealing. If we did not know the self, perhaps there wouldn't be a big problem. Meaning that at least there will be no grief, as in deep sleep. When someone says, I do not know the self, it means that he or she knows the self wrongly. Although self-ignorance is said to be a problem, that ignorance is not simply absence of the knowledge that I do not know, I am not aware of myself. It's not that which is called the self-ignorance. If I am not aware of myself at all, as in the state of deep sleep, there is no samsara, there is no problem. It's when I wake up, then I become aware of myself. But as I become aware of myself, I also become aware of my non-self, meaning I also become aware of my body and mind and sense organs also. So thus there is simultaneous awareness of myself because the self is self-revealing. The body, mind itself have no freedom to make themselves known, and therefore they are not known in deep sleep state because they are not self-effulgent, they have no freedom to make themselves known. If I withdraw my attention from them, they cannot remain the object of my awareness. And that's what deep sleep is when I withdraw my awareness from everything. Therefore, I remain unaware of my body, sense organs, mind, intellect. That freedom I have. The fact that it happens in the deep sleep state. Upanishad describes how the Atma withdraws his awareness from the sense organs, from the mind, from the intellect, withdraws. He wakes up, he then spreads his awareness, makes them alive. When I wake up, I make my buddhi alive, the mind alive, sense organs alive, the body alive. When I want to go to sleep, I may be unconscious. But then deep sleep, as you know, is a state when I am not aware of not only myself, I am not aware of anything. At that time there is no sorrow. Shokantarate, he crosses all the grief. So that is a great experience, which Vedanta gives a great deal of importance and analyzes. That everything is there and still there is no shoka, no grief. Because there is no self-awareness. And self-awareness also includes the awareness of what is non-self, but what is taken to be self. Awareness of what in reality is non-self, like the body, etc., which, however, are taken to be the self. Remember this. Therefore, I have the freedom not to take this to be myself, but I just do not. Somebody has to point this out to me. So when Sage Narada says, I am grieving, that I doesn't have to become the cause of grief. The I that truly I am does not have to be and does not become the cause of grief. When you say self-awareness, it is not awareness of the self that is any problem at all. It is not the awareness of non-self that is also a problem. It is the notion of taking the non-self to be the self. The wise person is equally aware of the body, mind as we are. The only difference is that it does not brand body as a self or mind as a self. I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. That is called identification. So it is this habitual identification. It is not that one day we decide to have that identification. We are born with the habit of identifying and do not even know that we are identifying, and therefore the notions that we are entertaining about ourselves are a result of identification. We do not know that. Since there is the awareness of self as well as non-self, there are some fraction of a moment When you wake up from the deep sleep, there is awareness of self, but not yet awareness of non-self. There can be very fraction of a moment. It is slowly that awareness expands, then I become aware of the I, then the buddhi, then the mind, then the sense organs, then the body, then where I am. Oh, I'm in Rishikesh. What's the time? I have to get up. Awareness expands. So Ramana Maharshi used to say that the very first moment when you wake up from the sleep, at that time we are aware of the self, but not yet aware of. That's a very, very small little window available. Not a large, not easy, but there is a small window available where I am just aware of myself and not yet aware of anything other than myself. At that time there is no problem. It is not awareness of myself that causes problem. Not awareness of the body that causes problem. It is the notion that body is a self, that's what causes problem. Why does that happen? Because I become aware of myself, which is nature of self to shine, and that self or conscious illumines body, mind complex also, so they also shine in my awareness. Except that this shines as the object awareness, the I shines as the subject of awareness. I shines as the subject, the drashta, the druk, or vishayi, means the self. And the mind, the sense organs, body, they also shine, but they shine as the object. This difference is not known to me. This difference is there. But I have never known, nor have I paid attention. And therefore I have simply taken for granted that whatever I am aware of, I am. Whatever I am aware of, that's what I am. Not recognizing that I am aware of both subject and object. And therefore, part of what I am aware of is not I, and part of what I am aware of is I. That's called viveka. Our problem is aviveka. Not separating the subject from the object, druk from drashya, seer from the seen. That is the problem. That is what Vedanta teaches. There is no other problem. It's very comforting to know that there is, even though I think there are millions of problems, Swami, you don't know, my head is all overwhelmed by so many problems and worries and anxieties. That's true, because from fundamental problem everything builds up. Then everything becomes a problem. Basically, I become problem for myself, then everything becomes a problem. Which I becomes problem? I, which is identified with body, mind, etc., and therefore which is the limited entity, and that limited I is the problem. Then anything that touches me makes me aware of the limitedness, and that awareness that I am limited is a cause of sadness. Soham Bhagavad Shoshami. Even though sage Narada says, I do not know the self, nobody can say, I do not know the self. If you do not know the self, that's called bliss. Ignorance is bliss. As in deep sleep. But we know the self, that's the problem. And that is the solution also, of course. The problem is that I am aware of myself. The solution also is that I should be aware of myself. I am aware of myself where I also lump together Vedanta, just superimpose the non-self upon the self. That's the technical way of explaining. endeavor. Why it is explained? So that we know how to de-superimpose. That's what Vedanta, that's what this text also will teach. What is taught is Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Viveka, separation of Atma, the self, from Anatma. The Anatma may be described differently in different places. Because Anatma lends itself to describe variously depending on how you look at it. Here also Anatma is looked upon in some way. Because the teacher wants to begin the teaching from where the disciple is. That's the reason why Sage Sanat Kumara asked Narada, please tell me what all you know, and then I will tell you what is beyond that. See, Narada gave a long list of what all he knows, which means he knows everything in the world. He has all worldly knowledge and otherworldly knowledge also. And also very humbly admitted that in spite of all this knowledge I am still grieving. All this knowledge has not released me from grief or sadness or unhappiness. I am here at your feet to become free from that grief. He didn't say teach me Atma Jnana. He says release me from grief. But having said that, I have heard this called Agama, Paramparaya, coming down from the sages. This statement, Tarati Shokam Atmavit, the knower of the self crosses the grief, is called Agama, is Paramparaya. This is what we hear from sages like you, who have heard from other sages. Is important. Tarati Shokam Atmavit, the knower of the self crosses the grief, is not somebody's statement. It is something that is coming down to us. Means that it is all well proven. It has stood the test of time. Otherwise you won't repeat. Your teacher told you this, and then you will also verify, and you will tell this to somebody when you have verified it. And then that person will tell his or her disciple or student when they verify it, meaning that this statement has been verified, has stood the test of time, and that is why it doesn't say Upanishad says that. Upanishad is pramanam basically, but this also becomes a pramanam. Shrutam hedan me bhavad sevya, from venerable sages like you who have heard from other sages. So this statement also becomes pramanam. Agama also becomes pramanam because it is something that is entertained by the sages of that repute. And that sage would not say unless he knows as the truth. Therefore, Tarati Shokam Atmavit, the knower of the self, crosses the grief, becomes a pramanam, becomes a basis for proceeding. And therefore now say, therefore please make me cross the ocean of grief, means please teach me Atma. It doesn't say Atma. Sage Narada has not in so many words sought for self-knowledge. Sage Narada has sought for that knowledge with which he can cross the grief. Having said that, it is self-ignorance that causes grief. That means that please teach me self-knowledge, And certainly Sanat Kumara wants to do that. But before doing that, as an astute teacher, He wants to know where the disciple is, so that he can begin his teaching from that point. No point in repeating what he already knows, nor skipping something that he should know. Therefore, please tell me what you know. And when Sage Narada described all that he knew, Yad Vaikinchat Etat Adhyagishtaha Nam Eva Etat. O Sage Narada, Yad Vaikincha Etat Adhyagishtaha. Whatever it is that you said you know, you studied Adhyagishta. What have you studied? Whatever you know. Nama eva etat. All of this is nothing but Nama. Because Sage Narada knows all the texts. Texts are all in forms of words, a form of words. And words always stand for corresponding objects. And therefore, all that is known, all the texts that are known can be reduced to one word. Word. You know the word. You know the name or you know the word. So from there we begin. From what you know to what you should know. And the method that is adopted here is, as the teacher says something, creates a curiosity in the disciple. And therefore the disciple says, what next? So when that jignasa arises, then when you answer, that becomes much more effective. Jignasa is the hunger for knowledge is arisen. Then when you tell them, it is absorbed right away. Gulped right away. So this is how we will see the dialogue proceeding. Nama eva etat. And that is also a knowledge, understand? So on what basis does Sage Sanat Kumara say that what all Sage Narada knows is Nama? So here, Sanat Kumara says, Nama va Rugveda. So whatever Sage Narada said, So Rugveda, Yajurveda, Samveda, Atharvana, all of these I know. All of that is repeated by Sanat Kumara. Nama eva etat. All of this is nothing but name. He says, I know so much. I know Rugveda, Yajurveda, Samveda. This, all of that is nothing but Nama or words. Because all the texts are recited. They are all in the form of words. This text you listen to from your teacher and that's how you learn them. But to listen to are the words and therefore all these texts are nothing but Nama or words. Which is also a great revelation. Nama upasvaiti. May you meditate upon Nama. May you meditate upon Nama or word as Brahman. What is the similarity? The meditation or contemplation requires a similarity. Upon the form of Lord Ganesha, we can meditate upon as Ganesha. This book you can't meditate upon as Ganesha because it doesn't know no similarity. So think of Nama as Brahman. Either know the Nama as Brahman or meditate upon Nama as Brahman. Both interpretations are there. Let us know, hey Narada, know Nama as Brahman. What is Brahman? Bruhatvad Brahma. The word Brahma is derived from the root Bruh, Bruhi, in sense of growth, in terms of largeness, bigness. So Brahma means the large, the big, the limitless. the all pervasive. So Brahma means that is all pervasive. Then Sayyid Sanat Kumara says, Nama upasvayati, may you meditate upon Nama or word as Brahman. Is there a similarity between word and Brahman? That is, because word reaches everywhere. Word is all pervasive. Because there is word and the meaning. Nama and the Rupa. The universe is made up of Nama. Rupa means form, which you see with your eyes. And Nama is a concept that form creates in your mind, the word. It's a form which creates, which is the word pot. So pot, every object that is there in the universe has a Nama, is it not so? There cannot be Rupa without the Nama. Can you think of a pot without the word pot? Swami, can you think of shirt without the material? Some fabric is there when you think of shirt. If nothing else, then you will sing. But shirt made of newspaper, something. So some material must be there. When there is shirt, the material fabric must be there. I have not seen that movie, so I guess he must be right. So also, the Nama always accompanies the Rupa. You cannot think of Rupa or form without Nama, nor can you think of pot without the object pot, nor can you think of the pot without the name pot. Isn't it so? Therefore, the whole universe is Nama Rupa, that means Nama pervades everything, is it not so? So Brahma means all pervasive. And Nama or the word also has this quality of being all pervasive. Think about this. So this is how the meditations were prescribed in the olden days. Now we have specific rupa or forms like Ganesha, like Anjaneya. So the forms are there, and then corresponding nama are there. But that principle applies to everything. So what is nama? Nama is that which covers the whole, all rupa, which covers the entire creation, which is all pervasive. Is it not so? Why you see there is nama? You see rupa, but there is nama there. So nama upasvayati. We meditate upon nama as Brahman. And then what happens when you do? Now so upasva is a vidhi. May you meditate upon nama as Brahman. When you enjoin something, then the outcome also must be stated. So either we can take that statement as a statement of may you meditate, or may you see the fact that nama is all pervasive. You can see that fact, is it not so? Think of nama and you can see that it covers every rupa, everything that's in the universe. Therefore, the nama pervades the whole universe. Is it not so? And therefore, there is similarity between nama and Brahman. What is Brahman? All pervasive. What is nama? Also all pervasive in its own way. Therefore, nama is Brahman. So see this fact, that's all. Either meditate upon the fact or see this fact. For Vedantin, seeing the fact. Or, if you cannot see the fact right away, meditate upon the fact, then you will see either. So, either seeing takes place because you have a prepared mind, or you meditate and then the seeing takes place. So, what's the result of seeing nama as Brahma? The next, the third, passage on the fourth page. Sayo nama brahma ityupaste yavan namno gatam tatrasya yatha kamacharo bhavati yo nama brahma ityupaste asti bhagavo namno bhuya iti namno vava bhuyostiti tanme bhagavan brahvitviti. So nama brahma ityupaste. Anyone who meditates upon name as Brahman. And how do you do that? By seeing that nama is all pervasive in its own way. All pervasive meaning that it pervades all the forms, rupas, and therefore is everywhere. Wherever the universe is, that's where the nama is, and therefore nama is all pervasive. One who sees this fact, either meditate upon that fact or see that fact. Meditation means identifying. The idea of upasana, worship or meditation is that in course of time you develop identification with what you are meditating upon. So meditation upon Lord Ganesha ultimately would culminate into your identifying with Ganesha. So those are great meditators, let us of Ganesha. You see in them some attributes of Ganesha entering into them. A Hanuman. Some cases we hear. That fellow also jumps like Hanuman. Because the Hanuman-ness has come into him. Ganesha-ness has come into him. If you perform meditation upon, with dedication and long enough time. So in the Upanishads or Vedas, the idea of meditation is to develop and discover identification with what it is that you are meditating upon. So you become that. Thus there are two processes here. One is the process of becoming, other is the process of knowing. First is becoming and then knowing. This is how when upasana is preceded by Brahmajnanam. That means that first is becoming and then knowing. Sayo nama brahma ityupaste. One who meditates upon nama as Brahma, like seeing that nama is all pervasive, nama indeed is all pervasive, nama indeed is Brahma. And that I am. Yam namno gadam tatrasya yatha kamacharo bhavati. Yatha kamachara, he acquires freedom of movement. Yavan namno gatam, as far as the range of name extends, he also extends. So saying he gets freedom of movement, as wherever the name is, he gets the freedom of movement, extends his freedom of movement. So this is the outcome of meditating upon Nama as Brahma, or outcome of seeing Nama as Brahma. Then you see Brahman wherever name is, and if you say that I am that Brahman, then you see everywhere you, wherever the Nama is. So this is the first level of knowledge or realization. When sage Narada has accomplished that, then the second stage would come. See in Taittiriya Upanishad, for example. Sava esha purusho narasamaya. The first statement is Sava esha purushaha annarasamaya. Annarasamaya is the body. Savai esha purushaha annarasa. Atma is body. See what Upanishad says. Purusha means the self, Atma. Thus, Atma is the body. So Upanishad says, realize this, meditate and realize that I am the body. What's the big deal, Swamiji? That I already know. No, but not only people, but this is my Atma looking at the sun, this is I. The people extend their I to many things. In sun also Atma, my wealth, other things, and so many things are Atma. At least withdraw from that and say, this I am. That's all realization. First stage of realization. Yes, I know. Tasmad va etasmad andrasamayat anyontaraatma prana. Now next level of realization, realize that, hey, body is because of prana. Body is alive because of the vital air. And therefore, vital air is the atma of the body. Therefore, who are you? I am vital air. Prana. Prana. See this fact? Now you say, who are you? I am prana. When that conviction is developed, tasmad va etasmad pranamayat anyontaraatma manomaya. So these are the subsequent stages of realization. You follow? Now he says manomayoham is also knowledge, realization. When he's established in that, then he's told, no, subtler than, other than manomaya is vijnanamaya. Vijnanamayoham. Says no, anandamaya. Anandamayam brahmapucham pratishtha. So this is how the aspirant is led stage by stage to the realization that I am Brahma. So that is the prakriya. There are no prakriyas. Prakriya means a method. Different Upanishads give different methods of contemplation. In that sense, it is desirable to study all of them. Otherwise, ultimate result is Aham Brahmasmi. The way you arrive at that knowledge, every Upanishad presents a different method of doing that. This Upanishad gives its own method. 6th chapter gave its own method. 7th chapter is giving its own method. 8th chapter gave its own method. So here, Nama Aham Asmi, I am Nama. In Taittiriya Upanishad, Andarasamayyoham, Amandarasamay, I am the body. Thank you, that's easy to realize. Then you know what? This body is due to prana, therefore pranamayoham. So from the effect you go to the cause, from the outer you go to the inner, and the Kathopanishad gives this prakriya in its own way. Indriyebhyah parahayartha artebhyasya param manah manasastu parabuddhi buddhiratma mahan parah mahatah param avyaktam avyaktat purushah parah purushanna param. That is this prakriya of leading us from these gross to subtle and to subtlest, from outer to inner, gross to subtle, from control to controller. So now that sage Narada recognizes that Nama I am, but everything is Nama, Nama is Brahma. It's not I am, Nama is Brahma, all pervasive. But then at the same time, sage Narada realizes that cannot cross, and he's very clear about the goal. Tardi Shogam Atmavit, that is clear to sage Narada. Then the knower of the self becomes free from grief. Knowing that I am Nama, I have not yet become free from grief. So you must have a student who is cooperating. Thank you, sir. What next? No, what? No, thank you. No, here, say Narada puts it to test. In next chapter also, says Indra puts it to test and recognizes that what is understood is not right. Otherwise, he goes home. I don't know. The two disciples, Indra and Virochana, merrily went home. I'm enlightened. This is what this is what Prajapati, the grandson, has taught us. And he taught everything, that to everybody else. That's how Virochana cult came. Indra says, Naham bhogyam pashyami. No, this is not right, this isn't simply right. So tube light happens. Here says Narada realizes Nama is Brahma. But knowing Nama as Brahma has not made me free from grief. So there must be something more than that. And therefore, Sayyid Narada asks, Asti bhagavo namnah bhuyayati. He Bhagavaha, O Venerable Sir, Asti namnah bhuyayati. Is there something superior to the name? Something greater than the Nama? Because I have not attained what I was seeking. I have not attained that freedom of grief that I was seeking. Therefore, is there something greater than Nama which I should know? Thus, this created the jignasa, the curiosity in the disciple. Means he's thinking. No question, which is a good thing because there is no question, we have all the answers, that's one way. Or, I think I know. So, but Sayyid Narada asks questions. I'm not saying that those who don't have questions, because I never had any question. I never asked any question of Puja Swami. He said, I never asked any question of my Guru. All right. So I also did not ask. But anyway, we should be like our Guru. But here, says Narada, naturally is thinking and putting the knowledge to test whether it has accomplished the purpose for which the knowledge is to be gained. It's not knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Tarati shokam atmavid, the knower of the self crosses the grief. Have I crossed? I haven't crossed. That means that what I know is not quite the self. Is there something greater than Nama? Asti bhagavo namno bhuyayati. O Bhagavaha, O Venerable Sir, is there something greater than Nama? Namno vava bhuyasti iti. Then says Sanat Kumara, surely there is something greater than name. Thank you. And walks away. No. Tanme Bhagavan bravitu iti. May the Venerable tell me, so there is a cooperation from a disciple. The cooperation of a disciple, understand? Not only in terms of bowing down, and that is it, as Venerable Sir, it's all there. But cooperation in terms of understanding what the teacher says, putting to test what I've understood, and recognizing that I still need to know. So now he's ready to understand, the teaching of the next level. He's ready. And when you say something to someone who is ready to listen, then it works out. We say many things to many people and they don't even listen to us. So he doesn't listen. But one thing we should ask. Somebody will listen to me if I have acquired the stature of saying something to that person. I must get adhikaritvam of being an advisor. If I want to advise somebody, I should be first accepted as competent to advise. Who are you to tell me? Not uncommon. Who are you to tell me? Even they don't say, then that's how they treat. When we hear an answer like this, that means that in the eyes of that person, I not acquire the status of someone who is fit to tell him, That means before saying anything, we should acquire the fitness to say that. Before advising something to somebody, I should acquire the status of competence to advise in the eyes of that person, not in the eyes of the world. In my eyes, I think I know, I should advise. That little child has to accept that, he'll question you. Because they don't accept something that just because you say that. And unfortunately, by the time children grow up, most fathers have lost the status or the dignity because they have not lived up to the expectation of the son. Father should realize that the son also expects something from me and I must also live up to the expectation of the father. And I am a human being and father is a big deal and therefore at some point in time I give up. And that fellow notice, hey, this what you did, that's what and that's how in course of time parents lose respect of the children. Not in our times, because we always respected them. We revered them. And so what? A parent means parent. No, not today. Parent means he has to be some this, so forth. And therefore, just because your status of parent by a relationship, you cannot take for granted that you will be looked upon as parent. Just because I tell you something doesn't mean that it should be effective unless you look upon me as the one who is worthy of telling you. You look upon me as worthy of being listened to, otherwise it won't have any effect. And so when Sage Narada says, I want to know, I want to learn, then it imparts Sanat Kumara the status of one who can teach, who can communicate. So this is an important thing. The relationship, that's why we talk Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana Yoga, Shraddha, Bhakti. When the disciple has Shraddha and Bhakti for the teacher, that is when in the eyes of the disciple, the teacher has a status or the fitness of teaching him. And that is what becomes the duty of the teacher also. That's why being guru is not an ordinary thing, because it's a very demanding role. Being anything is a demanding role. Being father, being mother, being anything, being friend. Every role has its own demands. Some role has more demands than others. But here we can see the relationship between Guru and Shishya. Shishya has the desire to know, which he expresses in so many words. And that's how creates a ground for the Guru to tell him that step. Then Guru is declared as competent to teach, and Shishya has declared his willingness to learn. When that combination takes place, then ideal communication would take place. So then, let us read the next words. There are so many steps. So we just stated this is called, just the first word. The pratika is what we have stated here. Vag vavanamno bhuyasi. Then you don't have what I have. Then you don't have what I have. So statement is, speech is very, the question was, is there something greater than the nama or name? Or word? Yes. Vag vava namno bhuyasi. Which linga is bhuyasi? Lingam is gender. Oh. Vag is just gender. Vag is with gender. Feminine gender. So bhuyasi. Manovava bhuya, it will all keep changing every time. Bhuya, bhuyasi, bhuyan, etc. Depending upon the karta, the subject. So vag is the subject here. Vag namna. Which vibhakti is namna? No, not putting them on the spot. In front of everybody you're asking me, Swamiji, what is this? Just to wake them up, to make them involved. Panchami, there you are. Vagvava namno bhuyasi. Speech is verily greater than name. Why is it so? Why is speech greater than nama? Then Sanat Kumara, but it's easy to understand. Vagvai Rugvedam Vijñāpayati Yajurvedam. How do you know? So, I know Rugveda, I know Yajurveda, I know Samaveda, I know Atharvaveda, I know all these things. How did you know? When the teacher told you. In those days, the knowledge was gained by listening to the teacher. Not by reading books, but they perhaps were not there. But all the knowledge came. Vedam anucharya. What is Veda? Anucharya acharya antevasinam anushasti. Vedam, so anucharya. So the teacher is the one that recites and the disciple recites in accordance with. So this is how the knowledge that Sage Narada learned Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and all. So everything is repeated in every passage. This is their style. But don't keep telling, I know Rigveda, no, but he said Rigveda, Yajurveda. To hammer in our mind, Puja Swami will say, no skipping anything. No glossing over. Speech is everything. That's everything doesn't, that it goes. Everything is what? Rigvedam, Vijñāpayati, Yajurvedam, Samaveda, Vijñāpayati. Whether you want to hear or not, you have to listen to the whole thing and make sure that speech, because it is speech which has made me know Rigveda, speech of the teacher has made me know Samaveda, Atharvaveda, whatever it is that I know is what I have known through the teacher. Who recited those or who told me those things, who taught me those things. And either the teaching of recital or teaching of the meaning of the scriptures all takes place through the speech, isn't it? So Rigveda, Yajurveda is all Nama that I know, but I knew Nama because the speech reveals the Nama. So Vag Vai Rigvedam Vijñāpayati. It is speech or words of the teacher, which Vijñāpayati, which makes me know Yajurveda, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda. Meaning that if that speech was not there, I would not have known. Isn't it? I would not have known what I know unless I was taught or told by the teacher. And therefore, Nama is dependent upon Vag, is it not so? The Nama, the knowledge of these texts would not have taken place unless there was Vag, the speech of the teacher. So one is dependent upon the other, is it not so? Nama is dependent upon Vag. Vag means speech. So the one that is dependent is lower, inferior to the one that is superior. So speech is superior, Nama is inferior. Question was, is there something greater than Nama? So yes, Nama is there because of Vak, because of speech. Therefore, speech is superior to Nama. Therefore now, if Nama is all pervasive, naturally speech is all pervasive, isn't it? Because Nama cannot without this speech. So meditate. Speech is Brahman, all pervasive, isn't it? Meditate. We skip one by one, we'll do it in half an hour, 1 hour. But ideally it takes its own time that you go to the next step only when this one step is clear. So Vagvai, Rugvedam Vijnapati, Yajurvedam, everything, Sanat Kumara repeats. Sarpajana Vidya, Sarpajana Devajana Vidya, etc., etc. And many other things also. What we know in our day-to-day life also. Not only the texts of the scriptures. Devam cha, Prasivim cha, Vayam cha, Akasham cha, Apas cha, Tejas cha, all the five elements, Devam cha, Manusyam cha, etc., all the different beings. Truna Vanaspati, all the plants and vegetables. Akita Patanga, all the worms and insects. Pipilikam up to the ant. Dharma cha, adharma cha. That we know dharma, adharma, virtue, So, what is virtue and vice? All of this we know from being taught by, so all that we know. Even what Narada says, Narada did not list, that also is, added here. That, how do you know? This is nose, how do you know? Where is the nose? Here. No. Where is the nose? Here. No. Where is the nose? Here. Yes. The little one knows. So that also is known, isn't it? By speech, isn't it? Whatever we know. Where is Mama? No. So he doesn't know the meaning of the word. He knows what mother is, but doesn't know what is the meaning of the word mother. So the meaning and word are connected by the one who teaches. So speech connects the word and the meaning. This is your dad, a brother, your sister, a pot, etc., etc. All the things that we know, ultimately we know from the words which were where some knowledgeable person connected the word with the with padartha. So speech, if it is not there, you would not have known what dharma is, what adharma is, what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. Yadvi vagna abhavishyan says, if the speech was not there, na dharmaha, na adharmaha, vijñāpayishyan, you would not have known what is dharma, what is adharma. Beta, you should not do this. This is not the way to do. We don't do this. That's how the mother says. हम ऐसा नहीं करते. That fellow picks up some, mud and, no, that is not the way. This is not to, you can't eat this. And eat some this one. That is not the way to eat. Eat systematically. Don't start with the dessert, start with chapati. When everything is served, we start with dessert. And we want to end with dessert. The child, that's what he wants to do. No, it won't be served to you anyway. First only chapati will be served. Otherwise they know that he won't eat anything else. All of this is taught by the speech. So whatever we know is all due to speech, isn't it? It's great. All that. So, therefore, vacham upasvaiti, recognize that speech is everything. All pervasive. There is nothing that excludes the speech. No knowledge excludes the speech. All knowledge comes from being taught from the words, from the speech. Then same thing, sayo vacham brahma idupaste. So one who identifies the speech has now the reach to wherever the speech is, he becomes as pervasive as the speech. So the says now I realize speech is Brahma, Vag is Brahma. Does that knowledge make me free from grief? I guess that's what must have happened. The fact that says, Narada says, Asti bhago vacho bhuya iti. Oh, Venerable Sir, is there something greater than speech? He asked that question. When would he ask? When he subjected his knowledge to his test. Has his knowledge made me free from grief? No, there must be something else. Is there something greater than speech? Asti bhago vacha bhuya iti, vacha bhuya asti iti. Yes, there is something greater than the speech. Thank you. No, Tanme Bhagavan Bravitu iti. May the venerable sir, please tell me what you have to ask. Na prashnaha kasyasid bruyat. The one who is not, this should not be told, but I don't think that's the rule that is applied here. But still, in each case it is sage Narada who asks, and sage Sanat Kumara replies. It's not a formality that you ask, etc. Asking means that you see the need of knowing something. That jignasa is there. When jignasa is there, and when something is told, it is like giving food to a hungry person. Tanme Bhagavan Bravitu iti. May the venerable sir please tell me what is superior to the speech. So we come to the next passage. Manobhava vacho bhuyaha. Mind is indeed greater than speech. Vacham cha nama cha mana anubhavati. There is something which says this is called nama, this is called speech. So somewhere you know that this is the word part, the object part. So that the object part, nama, the word part, nama, the object part. How do you say that? There is something that knows that, is it not? This book, this cloth, this. Vacham cha nama cha manah anubhavati. Is mind that experiences the speech as well as nama. Is it not so? I know what nama is. How do you know? I know nama is nama, rupa is rupa. How? There is a faculty of knowing. That's how we know, is it not so? Otherwise, now everything is there. Unless it is known, you don't even know that it exists. So, vacham cha, nama cha, manaha, anubhavati. Sayada, manasa, manasyadi. And so, the next step is that the fact that you know the existence of speech, you know the existence of the words, is because the words as well as speech are known to you. Is it not so? So you have the faculty of knowledge by which you know these things, you are aware of these things. Manasa manasyati, it is by mind that it knows. And all this first happens in the mind. Before the word is uttered, so before the nama is known, it is uttered in words. And before a word is uttered, something happens somewhere in the mind, is it not so? Yada manasa manasyati mantran adhiya. When in that mind it desires that, may I recite this mantra, speech, then the mantra, the nama is recited. So, nama is recited when the speech recites that, and speech recites when there is a desire in the mind, may I recite this speech, mantra. Swami, I want to chant something, Purusha Sukta, Sri Sukta, or chant Purusha Sukta, suppose somebody says, but my mind should say, next, Medha Suktam, Medha Devi. But then before that happens, something goes on in the mind that I want to recite Medha Suktam. He can say what he wants to say. Unless my mind desires to say something, it's called starting problem. Come on, sing a bhajan. Well, something doesn't happen inside, and then therefore that act doesn't take place. Is it not so? Something should happen in the mind. Is it not so? The mind should say, yes, I want to recite this. We may not note all this process going on, but when you find somebody just skipping there, with the children's class, some children just sit there. So many children reciting Om Namah Shivaya, these fellows, they're sitting there, that's all. They think that children are learning. Not everybody is learning. Because in their mind, this thing does not happen that I should chant. That's all. Please do this. Something happened in my mind that I want to do that. Otherwise, the doing doesn't happen. Is it not so? Because speaking also is an action. An action can take place when there is a desire to do that. If that doesn't happen, that's a problem of communication. Mother says, come on, cook this. Nothing. Come on, learn how to make chapati. I don't think I need to know that, that's all. And she is 35 years old and I have not gone to kitchen, Swami. Thank you, very good. So what am I going to do now? You invited me for Bhiksha. Because that never happened, that I should learn something, I should do that. I'm sure that person knows many things and does many things. But so here the text points out that even the speech means utterance. In the form of Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samveda, do everything. All that utterance can take place, provided the mind has a desire, may I now recite Rigveda, may I recite Yajurveda, So that process should take place in the mind before the speech is uttered. Meaning that the speech would not have been had the desire not arisen in the mind, isn't it? To do something, if it does not arise in the mind, then the speech would not have been. If speech was not there, the nama would not have been. If nama was not there, I would not have known anything. Therefore, manova vacho bhuyaha, therefore, the mind is bhuyaha, superior to, greater than vacha, of the speech. Vivaksha buddhi, the intention to utter first take place. That is called manaha here. That before I utter Meda Suktam, in the mind, the intention to utter should take place. So manasyati vivaksha buddhi. So what is meant by manaha is the desire to do that thing. Mantran adhiya ucharayam, may I utter these mantras? Then the utterance takes place. Then speech is there, then nama is there, then everything else is there. In that sense, manaha, this desire to do that is superior to the speech, etc. And then the same thing follows everywhere. Mana upasvaiti, therefore, may you meditate upon manas as Brahman. Because if nama is all pervasive, speech also is all pervasive, subtler than that. Speech is all pervasive, mana is all pervasive also. So, mano brahma ityapaste, yavan manasogatam, etc. So one who realizes manas as Brahman, then whatever is the reach of Brahman, that is what becomes his reach also. So yes, now I have attained the reach of manas. Meaning now I am greater than before. I reached only where the nama was. Then my reach extended to speech. Now it extended to manaha. But still I am not free from grief. Maybe the grief may have reduced a little. I am not free from grief. And therefore, asti bhagavo manaso bhuyayati. Oh Venerable Sir, is there something greater than manas? Asti va manaso va bhuyastiti. Yes, my dear, there is something greater than the manas. Tanme Bhagavan pravitu iti. May the revered Sir, please tell me. So that's how the dialogue proceeds there. We'll continue. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmairi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om